8.5 years. Over 3,100 days and nights. Sometimes, I catch myself wondering if that man in the crisp white shirt, sitting calmly in the Sacramento City Hall office, circling city planning documents with a Mont Blanc pen, was really me. That life feels like it belonged to someone else, a dusty memory from a past existence. That man's name was David Miller. Colleagues, or rather, those who needed something from him, respectfully called him Mr. Miller. Now I'm just David, or more often a vague label. Hey, the delivery guy. David Miller is dead. He died silently one early morning at 45, at a Texas Hold'em table covered in green velvet, buried under flickering numbers and an insatiable hunger he couldn't tame. I remember the ice cube in that glass of bourbon. It was in a private room at a discreet downtown steakhouse called the Gentleman's Club, though every breath of air in there reeked of money and power. That night was a send-off for my boss, Mr. Thompson, the head of the planning department, who was moving up to a state government post. After a few rounds of drinks, he patted my shoulder, a little drunk, his voice low but hitting like a hammer. David, you're a good guy. Strong work ethic, reliable. But you're too steady like a rock. In government, that's both a strength and a weakness. Back then, I was quietly proud. That rock was my father's legacy, bought with half his life. An Irish immigrant, he spent decades breathing asbestos dust in East Coast factories, coughing up blood-streaked phlegm in his final years. All his toil, all his sacrifice, was so I could escape that life and sit in an air-conditioned office with a secure, unshakable, iron rice bowl. Stability was the most precious inheritance he could give me. After the steak dinner, a municipal contractor named Rick enthusiastically invited us to another room in the club. Rick was always all smiles. His company had landed several big city projects in recent years, many of which passed through my hands for approval. He poured me a tall glass of Maker's Mark, with a single large, crystal-clear ice cube. The cube clinked against the glass as it swirled in the amber liquid, the sound sharp and distinct in a room thick with cigar smoke and hushed conversations. It was like a key, unlocking something deep inside me that had never been touched. Rick pointed to a professional poker table in the center of the room, where a lively game was underway, colored chips glinting temptingly under the lights. Play a couple hands? He shoved a thick stack of chips into my hands, their weight smooth and heavy. David, don't be so stiff. If you lose, it's on me. If you win, get Sarah that Tiffany necklace she's been eyeing. I'd never touch the stuff. My father despised gambling, calling it the devil's temptation. But with the alcohol buzzing and Thompson's steady like a rock echoing in my head, I bristled. A rock? Who the hell wants to be a cold, dull, unchanging rock for life? I sat down and clumsily placed my bet. That night, I, a rookie, won $3,000. Crisp $100 bills, stacked neatly, smelling of fresh ink straight from the counting machine. I tucked them into my suit's inner pocket, and on the drive back to our suburban home, my heart pounded like it wanted to leap out of my chest. Sarah was asleep when I got home. I slipped the money into our shared drawer. The next morning, when she found it, she asked, thrilled, where it came from. For the first time, I lied to her, saying it was a long-delayed project bonus from work. She didn't doubt me for a second, hugging me tightly, kissing my cheek, and saying, "This is amazing, honey. Now we can afford Leo's expensive STEM summer camp." Her warm body pressed against mine, the scent of home, of safety and stability. But in my mind, all I could see was that glistening ice cube, bobbing in the bourbon, refracting chaotic, dangerous light. The shifting numbers, the clatter of chips, they were a cryptic code, unlocking a decades-long shackle inside me called desire. For the first time, I felt how easy, how exhilarating money could be. It was far more intoxicating than the salary I earned from a year of diligent work. From that $3,000 win to a $6 million debt, it took just over a year. I was like a man possessed, completely unhinged. My life split in two. By day, I was still the meticulous, dependable mid-level manager at City Hall, Mr. David Miller. By night, I wore another face, haunting high-end and underground poker games, a red-eyed gambler chasing the next thrill. My position, the official stamps, the connections I'd built over years, all became chips I could trade for trust and credit at the tables. Rick and other friends were happy to lend me money, knowing my role could bring them bigger returns. I started taking frequent leaves, spinning absurd excuses to Sarah and colleagues. I avoided old friends who genuinely cared about me, my phone contacts filling up with people I'd never have associated with before. I poured our hard-earned savings, bit by bit, into that bottomless pit. Then, in a moment I still want to slap myself for, I did the unthinkable. Behind Sarah's back, I forged her signature and took out a home equity line of credit on our quiet neighborhood house, the one we'd planned to grow old in. As I signed her name, my hand shook. That thin sheet of paper burned like a red-hot branding iron. The faces at the tables changed, batch after batch, slapping my shoulder, calling me David, or my brother, but I later saw the truth in their eyes, greedy, cunning wolves. They'd always chime in when I was at my lowest. "Don't lose heart, David. "You're so close. Luck's coming back, next hand, you'll win it all." And I believed them. By then, I'd lost everything but the hollow hope that the next hand would save me. The last of my 401k retirement savings, the final cash I could pull, was pushed onto the table. The room's air felt sucked dry. The world froze for 3 seconds. Then Rick's ever-smiling face turned cold as a frozen steak. No more acting. He grabbed a folder, slid a thick stack of signed IOUs across to me, and said flatly, icily, "David, game's over. Time to settle up. $6 million. That number was a bullet through my skull. It wasn't just a figure. It was all of Sarah's and my savings, our house's value, my retirement fund, and a pile of private loans with sky-high interest from every shady source imaginable. I stumbled out of the club, legs like noodles. Dawn was breaking, and street cleaners were blasting the pavement with high-pressure hoses, the hissing sound like a rushed funeral for my life in the quiet early morning. I don't know how I drove home. When I opened the door, Sarah was sitting silently on the living room couch, no lights on. The coffee table was littered with opened envelopes, bank demands, court summonses, and crude, threatening letters from underground lenders. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were swollen like overripe peaches, hollow and terrifying. She just stared at me. For so long I thought she'd scream, lunge at me, claw my face like in a movie, or grab a kitchen knife and end the bastard who ruined her life. But she didn't. She did nothing, just stood and walked to the kitchen. A moment later, she came back with a bowl and set it in front of me. It was leftover, cold chili con carne, topped with a stale, hard piece of cornbread. "Eat," she said, her voice hoarse, like it had been sanded down. "Eat so you have the strength to figure out what the hell we do next." I picked up the bowl, staring at the congealed grease and lifeless food. Tears I couldn't hold back fell, hot and heavy, into the cold chili. The salt of the sauce, the beans' musty tang, the cornbread's dryness, my tears' bitterness, they all mixed together. It was the hardest meal I'd ever swallowed, but also the warmest. In that moment, I realized I'd lost far more than money. My government job was gone. The bank foreclosed and auctioned our house. The friends who once orbited me vanished. Relatives and old friends avoided me like a plague. Sarah divorced me, taking nothing extra, just moving with our son Leo to live with her sister. After liquidating everything we could sell, the debt list still read $985,000. That number was a tattoo, burned into my bones, searing me day and night. I needed a job, any job that paid immediately. I saw Amazon was hiring independent contractor delivery drivers for Amazon Flex. The requirements were simple: a car, a smartphone, a clean background check. So, I became a delivery driver. On my first day, I fumbled with the driver app. Sacramento's late summer sun scorched like a furnace, sweat dripping into my eyes, stinging. At the gate of an upscale gated community, whose plans I'd once approved, I parked my beat-up used Toyota in a visitor spot. A young security guard strode over, impatiently tapping my window, barking, "Hey, delivery guys can't park here. Go wait in the corner over there." I vaguely recognized him. Years ago, he'd been a temp at City Hall, always pausing in the hallway to nod and say, "Good morning, Mr. Miller." I said nothing, started the car, and moved to the farthest corner as he directed. In that moment, all my dignity, pride, and past shattered under his shout. I began to relearn this world I'd lived in for over 40 years, using my hands. These hands, once used for handshakes, signing documents, holding delicate coffee cups, now only moved heavy, sharp-edged packages. My fingers soon bore cuts from tape and cardboard edges. In Sacramento's snowless winters, the morning chill seeped into my bones. My hands swelled red and stiff, like frozen carrots. At night, in my rented, underheated apartment, even holding a fork was a struggle. In summer, California's sun blackened and peeled my skin, joints thickened, palms layered with calluses. Once, delivering a heavy box of books to an elderly professor near the university, he saw me panting. After signing, he didn't shut the door but went inside and returned with a cup of hot water. "Here, take a sip. You look exhausted," he said kindly. In America, people rarely offer water to delivery drivers. I froze, took the paper cup, my hands shaking so much some water spilled, scalding my hand. I didn't feel the pain, just a wave of grief hitting my nose, tears nearly spilling. I turned away quickly, hiding my face. 8.5 years, over 3,100 days, not one day off. I wore out 4 used cars. Besides Amazon, I signed up for DoorDash and Uber Eats, delivering packages by day, food and passengers by night, sleeping less than 5 hours daily. I was a machine, fueled only by the shrinking debt number. Finally, the afternoon I paid off the last cent. I didn't take another order. I parked outside Leo's middle school, watching from afar. When the bell rang, kids poured out like a tide. I spotted him instantly, taller than his peers, backpack slung over his shoulder, laughing with a friend. He saw my beat-up car and me in the driver's seat. His smile paused, but without hesitation or disdain, he said goodbye to his friend and ran over. He hopped into the passenger seat, buckled up, and grabbed the sandwich I'd made him that morning. "Dad, you're done early today," he said, his tone light and natural. I started the car. The breeze from the open window swept away the day's sweat. These hands, once adorned with a fancy watch, had gambled away a happy home. Now, scarred and calloused, they'd carried, brick by brick, a steady future for my son and myself. They were no longer Mr. Miller's polished hands. They were a father's hands, a man's hands seeking redemption. I didn't look back at him, just stared at the road lit by the headlights and gave a soft mm. The road ahead is still long, but I know where it leads, home. That's enough.